Right. Okay, here we go. Welcome, everyone. My name is Trapper Goldsmith, host of the T-Rap Show, where we showcase elite athletes and sport individuals with their inspiring stories and rise to glory in their pursuit of everlasting greatness. Today, we have a standout in BC lacrosse. Ryland Rees comes from a very athletic family, actually. He was the youngest member of the U19 Team BC. He played at the U19 Team Canada Camp. He played in all 16 games his rookie year in NCAA Division I at New York, Stonybrook University. He was drafted second overall in 2019 NLL draft to the expansion team, the Rochester Knighthawks, after being the 2019 East Defensive Player of the Year and first team all-conference selection in 2018 and 2019. Then he was drafted first pick in the second round to the Waterdogs of the PLL, which was also an expansion team, and then was part of the championship team in 2022. He played for Team Canada in the World Lacrosse Championships. I could basically spend the entire episode talking about Ryland's resume. This guy lives and breathes lacrosse. He's going to talk about playing in both leagues, the National Lacrosse League and the Premier Lacrosse League. Keys to winning the financial game when you're not making seven figures as an athlete. The toll playing lacrosse 12 months out of the year takes on your body, and what he's focused on next, how to build mental toughness to stay at the top of your game. So Ryland, welcome, man.
Trapper, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So you grew up in BC, same as I did, standout player, actually the youngest member of the U19 Team BC squad. A lot of good lacrosse players come from Canada. So was it always lacrosse, or did you have a few other sports you played early on?
Growing up, it was a lot of sports. I played soccer all through high school, played hockey all the way until about 10th grade. Basketball in middle school and stuff like that. Lacrosse for me, I kind of think I knew kind of growing up and everything like that. My grandpa played. He's in the BC Lacrosse Hall of Fame.
I seen that.
Yeah, so he's kind of the reason why I started playing lacrosse, and I guess the reason where I am today is, he would come over every day after middle school, high school. We're in the backyard, we're shooting on my net, and every single day it's different tips and different things that I should be doing. Still at the professional level, I did a phone call, after a game or a day after a game, and he's telling me, oh, you should have done this, should have done that. So, he's still doing it to this day. And at 8 years old, he's still pushing me and keeping me on my toes. So
that's cool. That's cool. And so your mom played field hockey. Your brother plays lacrosse as well. You had a truly athletic family that you came up in. So was it like always athletics at the dinner table?
Yeah, we have a very competitive family, and that goes for, my aunts, my uncles. My uncle played for the BC Lions. Two of my cousins went and played sports at college, or multiple people played sports at college. It's just sports run through our family's veins. And, it's kind of cool now. And my youngest brother's just kind of turning 15. So he's in 9th grade, and now, we're all we get to share our tips with him. It's kind of cool. And to see him going through the high school that we went to, and, starting to kind of try and follow our roles a little bit. It's been really cool. But yeah, sports has always been breakfast, lunch, dinner talk. It runs through our veins of our family.
That's cool. And so your middle brother, Carson, he plays pro as well. So youngest brother, that's the path he wants to go.
Yeah. So we don't know. My younger brother still plays hockey. Honestly, he loves fishing more than anything in the world. So who knows? But yeah, my middle brother went to play D2 school in Philadelphia, and I played in like the semi-pro league. He was on our team for a little bit last year, and so he's kind of up and down in there, and he's still playing at a high level and while working a full-time job there in Buffalo. So he's not too far away from me here in Rochester.
That's sweet. So we know the opportunities for hockey in Canada. Hockey's kind of, a Canadian thing. But what are the opportunities for lacrosse coming up? And you obviously played Division I, NCAA. Like, there's a lot of good Canadian players now entering into the professional lacrosse leagues.
Yeah, Canada or lacrosse has always been, part of Canada. It was Canada's national sport for, the past how many years, 100 years. And, everybody just assumes it was hockey, but it was really lacrosse. And they recently switched it to now it's the winter sport is hockey, summer sport is lacrosse. So it's always been a really big part of Canada. And, after the First Nations kind of created lacrosse, it crept into Canada right away. And box lacrosse is huge in Canada, where field lacrosse is kind of on the climb, on the up. Right. Which is the opposite of the United States, where they've always done field lacrosse. There's really no box lacrosse unless you're in quite a lacrosse hotbed. There's some. So, box lacrosse is growing in the States, but yeah, it's growing in Canada. It's awesome. It's, cool to be a part of, what I can from where I am, but lacrosse it's growing and hopefully it keeps growing so that, we make it to that stage of those other professional sports one day.
Yeah, even watching it, man, I've been to quite a few box lacrosse games here in Calgary, and man, it's crazy. Like I can't believe it doesn't surpass hockey just from the intensity. I mean, the fights are crazy as well, and the roughness of it. It's a pretty intense sport to watch for a fan.
Yeah, it's definitely. I always tell people it's like a mix of like hockey and football. You really
Totally.
hit anyone you want whenever you want. There's, last year we had a goalie fight. So, it's definitely a really entertaining game. It's physical, fast paced. It's, everything you kind of ask for. And, I don't know if we'll ever overtake the NHL or hockey, but, maybe someday get considered in the same conversation would be nice.
Ryland, what were some influential moments in your career coming up through the ranks that made it was like, yeah, this is why I chose lacrosse. This is, the path I'm taking. What are some moments that stood out for you?
Yeah. I mean, for me, there's countless ones from my grandpa that I could do. Any given day that he was over every single day growing up. So there's so many that I can do from him, but, there's really just some coaches that when you're kind of getting in that middle school, high school age where, you're choosing if you're pursuing hockey or lacrosse, and there's just different options. I had a couple different coaches, Tim Gillespie and Travis Gillespie, that were two, really important coaches in my life that they were there at the right timing and, really pushed me and kind of steered me the right direction in the sport, changing positions. I used to be a midfielder, and my coach Gillespie, Tim, he said, "Hey, let's try you at this." And all of a sudden I just took it off running, and, now all of a sudden I still use the long pole to this day, and he's the one who put it in my hand. So, he coached me for a long time, and same with his brother, Travis Gillespie, coached me at that Team BC level. And that was kind of when I found out what high level lacrosse was that first year Team BC, the amount of work and practices that we put in. We had guys on the island, so we practiced 7 hours on Saturday, 7 hours on Sunday. And we practiced like every other weekend, but it was like 14-hour days, 3.5 hour practice, lunch, 3.5 hour practice, with a beep test every weekend. So it was, when you're in high school, it's not necessarily things that you want to do, but there's sacrifices that you make to be on the team that you want to be on. And that taught me at a pretty, like 10th grade, 9th grade, that, a pretty young level that, it was something I loved, like the grind. It was something I loved doing. And, they both really pushed me to kind of be the best player I am, and, kind of help carry to where I am today.
Did you feel the pressure at a young age because you were the youngest on that Team BC squad, and you kind of you had a very successful career early on? Did you feel the pressure coming up and then playing in NCAA and then looking at getting drafted and playing in the pro ranks? Was there pressure for you to perform?
Yes and no. That I was never like the best kid growing up. I had the same team basically from when I was probably 7 years old. We grew up playing until I was 20 years old together. So, I was always in the top end, but I definitely wasn't like the top player. So I never really felt that pressure at the younger age. I guess more it's every game. It's more the pressure on yourself. It's not necessarily from other people. You know what you can do. You know how you want to play in certain games, and your expectations are higher. And so I think the pressure, it's not necessarily like outside pressure for me. It's now I just have a lot of pressure on myself that I hold myself to higher standards. And that I just expect a lot, and sometimes that, you can't always deliver. But
as athletes, we're always our own worst critic, right? We're artists on ourselves.
Exactly. Growing up, it wasn't too bad because, I was never the top player. It was sort of late and kind of right towards getting to high school is where I really sprouted and sort of started to take off. Prior to that, it wasn't anything special. So
let me ask you now, looking back, why do you feel like you weren't one of the top players? What was it that was missing?
I don't know. Honestly, we put in the work. We practiced. When you're at those ages for, a lot of boys, it's puberty and growing. Some guys grow and hit puberty 2 years before others. And I was probably right in the middle of the group, not early, not late, just kind of middle of the pack as a lacrosse player. And, I think it kind of did help me in a lot of ways. Because whenever we were a second year or a first year on the team, it's you and then a year older than you. So every year when I was a first year, I would get cut to the second team where there was like 3 or 4 of my best friends that would make that top team. So it's probably for the first few years of my, career getting towards high school that I was always cut. And then high school comes and then I don't get cut anymore. And then I start surpassing some of these guys. So I think it kind of all helped me direct me in the right place. And, knowing the feeling of getting cut from some of these Team BC teams at a really young age, or the A1 teams at a young age, those kind of just made me hungrier and want to be on them more. And, made me work a little bit harder than some of them. But yeah, it definitely kind of helped shape the player who I am.
That's true. My boys are in the U14, and you have to have jerseys that are men's extra large to extra small. Yep. There's this wide array of who's sprouted, who's hit puberty. It's just a funny, awkward stage at that point. Does your grandpa ever talk about how the game has changed since he played, or what's remained the same?
He played when it was wooden sticks. There was no helmets. It was a much, much different game back when he played. So he still tells me to put some sand in my shaft to make it heavier. He just all the things that they used to do back in the day. But it's a lot faster than how they used to play. But he still gives me the tips and all the things that he used to. Doesn't quite understand how much the game's changed. I don't think he still tells me to do the things that he used to do, but I still take some advice and use what I can.
There's still always the fundamentals.
Yep.
So when did you know, Ryland, that pro lacrosse was going to be your career? This is what you were going to do with your life. At what stage were you like, yeah, absolutely, this is what I'm doing?
It was pretty late in my career, really. Like, 10th, 11th grade, I was, college was something that was the top of my goal. It's like, I want to go play lacrosse at a school in the States, get an education and come home. Basically, it was what, so I never looked at like professional as if something was reachable in high school. I don't think even. And then college, obviously going, it's a big culture shock. It's a big change to go across the United States from Vancouver to go to a college. It's much different. And after my first year, kind of starting a lot of games and seeing a lot of time, and kind of even my first year being one of the better players on the team, it sort of started to creep in. So I'd say definitely college was sort of when I was like, oh, like I can actually, play at this professional level. And then, my junior year of college, playing with the Team Canada, every player on that team basically is in the professional league. So that was when I really knew, like, hey, I can hang in those leagues. I can play, and it's something I want to do. It's probably something I've always wanted to do. It's just I never thought I could get there. So, when I was younger, there wasn't lacrosse on TV when I was younger.
Right.
There was no exposure. So you're just watching the junior teams in your own town, and you're like, oh, I want to play for them. So, but yeah, professional was probably like right as I was going into college. Right at college, I kind of realized that, hey, this is something I can do. So,
had that belief that's the biggest piece of the puzzle. Hey, is truly having that belief that you can do it.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's a couple of different leagues. You've kind of been part of all of them. So there's the NLL, National Lacrosse League, which is box lacrosse or indoor lacrosse. There's the Premier Lacrosse League, and then there was another one. What was the Major League Lacrosse?
Yeah, Major Lacrosse League. So it's MLL, and now there's PLL and NLL.
So you're one of the few players to play both leagues. You play year round. Other than one's played indoors, one's played outdoors, what are some big differences between the leagues?
Yeah, obviously the field lacrosse game and box lacrosse game are just completely different in itself. Box lacrosse is 5-on-5 with a goalie, so 6-on-6. Field lacrosse is 9v9 with a goalie, so 10v10. On a full soccer field. So there's just the rules. There's so many differences in the games. Like if one person was to watch box lacrosse and field lacrosse, they would think they're two different sports.
Is that right? Wow.
So that's the hard part of it. But
do you train differently to prepare for one league or the other?
Yeah, certainly. So indoor, I think it's a lot more physical. So you need to be a little bit stronger, a little bit, you don't need to necessarily have as much cardio as, you do, but it's a little bit different where you need to be able to, sprint for 30 seconds and then you come off, catch your breath, and then 30 seconds. Where field lacrosse, you got to be able to, you're basically jogging and running the whole field, the whole game. So that's a little bit like longer cardio, and you don't necessarily need the same amount of strength. It's more like footwork at that point. So I've switched my focus a little bit. I don't change my workouts too often or like too differently for them. Just more like preseason, I'll start to focus a little more footwork, a little bit more speed work going into field lacrosse season. And box lacrosse, it's a little bit more strength, a little bit more power. But not too much changes between the workouts.
Building the bench press, the chest and the biceps a little bit more for box. I got it.
Yeah.
Which do you feel suits your game better? Well, one, I guess, which do you prefer, and which do you think suits your game a little better, or your skill set?
Yeah, I think both the answers are probably box lacrosse for me. Only because we grow up playing box lacrosse at such a young age, and I was very fortunate to grow up with a really, really good group of people. They're still my best friends to this day, and it was the same team from when I was, like I said earlier, like I was 7 until I was 20. So that kind of it just made box so important to me. So I'd say box is probably my favorite. It's close. And then box for me growing up, we always played offense, defense, everything until probably 17 years old even. So I think that helped me with the transition part of my box lacrosse game, being able to still at this level, play good hard defense, but being able to contribute a little bit offensively as well. So I think, that suits my game a little bit better.
I think box lacrosse gets a little bit more exposure and TV time as well. Hey, I saw it was just trailing in ticket sales to NHL and NBA actually for indoor leagues.
Yeah. NLL definitely gets more TV exposure in Canada for sure. We have a TSN deal with the NLL, and the PLL, since we're based in the States, there's no really TSN, so it's ESPN. And they do a good job at that, and we're on ESPN Plus and ESPNU and whatnot, or ESPN2 sometimes. So there's exposure. It's just where you are basically. You're gonna have much more field lacrosse exposure in the States, and you're gonna have much more box lacrosse exposure in Canada. It's just kind of the way leagues are right now, and unfortunately, they don't coexist super well. They don't work together super well yet. So hopefully, something down the road. It's all about growing the game of lacrosse.
Grow both of them.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah, they're both trying to grow their own right now. So down the road, hopefully they figure out a way to grow together.
Now, you went to university in New York. You signed with a New York team. I know you've bought real estate down there now, and you're kind of a permanent residence. Was there something that drew you to New York? What was what kind of brought all that about, or was it just one of the top schools that you wanted to go to?
Yeah, it was really the whole recruiting thing in high school it's pretty crazy. It's better now with new rules and everything, but when I was in college or high school, there were some kids committing to schools in 7th, 8th grade, and it was crazy. But Stonybrook was one of the schools that I went and visited. I obviously got to meet the team, the coaches, got to see all the facilities, the campus, everything like that. And I had a good relationship with the coaches there when I was on my visit. I really liked the campus. Obviously scholarship helps. So those were all sort of different factors, and I knew I wanted to play somewhere in the States. Stony Brook wasn't necessarily my number one choice if I could choose any school in the United States. But it seemed like the best fit for me personally. So that was the main reason why I chose Stony Brook. And then, everything after being drafted to a New York team and staying down here, that's sort of been just as I go. The draft, don't really have a say. I'm very, very happy here in Rochester. But you don't have any say really in where you go. So,
and you might have met a girl down there too.
Yeah. So that's definitely a reason why I'm still in New York is, the old lady, but she's from Long Island. So, her off the island, which is tough to do. People from Long Island think the best place in the world and they never want to leave. So, she's moved up here in Rochester with me, and yeah, we're pretty much full, residency here.
I will admit you've got a few more golf games than I do on the year. So you do get some earlier golf days.
Yeah, typically not a Rochester thing. Normally last year we had some snow at this point still, so it's very shocking to be able to golf at this point. But I'm certainly not complaining.
That's true. Didn't Buffalo have that crazy 6-foot snowstorm or something insane like that?
Yeah, there were places with over 9 feet there. There were houses that were it was crazy. And I'm an hour away and we had 1 inch of snow. Wow. So Buffalo, they're really close to Lake Ontario. So you get the wind chill and then the snow coming off the water. We're a little bit further from the lake, so we don't get as much. But yeah, it was crazy how much snow they got. And then, we're over here an hour away getting an inch or two. So, Rochester is normally a pretty cold winter and a pretty snowy winter. We had a pretty lucky, pretty easy winter this year. So
there you go. Rochester's the place to be in New York. So most people know lacrosse salaries don't compare to NHL salaries. Unfortunately, that's due to, that's one of the reasons we want to grow the game. And most players have some type of full-time career outside of lacrosse. You're one of the few fortunate players to play full-time lacrosse year round. Ryland, what's been your financial strategy to ensure you kind of stay on track and your goals for after sport are met? Because I know I've helped you some and you have a great financial plan, both during sport and for after.
Yeah, for me, it was kind of, after I graduated and started to get into this whole professional lacrosse, for me, I just knew that lacrosse, you're not going to be a millionaire, you're not going to make all this money. So kind of right out of college, one of my, focuses is one of the things that caught my attention early was to try and just get on top of, my financials as early as possible. And the easiest way I talked to many people, my parents, family, friends, everything. And obviously investments was a pretty big topic. And it was just something that I really at the time, and still to this day, don't, not a professional, not you. But it was something that I wanted to be in control of and, have a say in, what my future is going to look like. So it was something that I always wanted to get on top of, and I just needed the right guidance and the right, information. And fortunately with the NLL, and I believe it was Tyler Pace kind of connected us two, and very happy and very thankful for what you've been able to do for me and help me. But yeah, then that is I'm still learning to this day. It's, financials are, there's a lot of different things that go into it and everything like that, but I'm still learning to this day and just trying to learn more and more, as we go.
Well, starting young, but you also have a unique situation in where you're a Canadian citizen, you're playing on one side of the border, actually both sides when you're playing in the NLL, but residing in the States. So your plan and your taxation gets a little complicated, but you've been able to maneuver well through that and take care of yourself. Ryland, what's your financial advice to a rookie just entering the league? He signed his first pro contract. You got a rookie on your team. What would you tell him?
Oh, I would tell him that if it's his only job, I'd tell him to get another one on that rookie contract. But
make more money.
Yeah, no. Again, I think it would just be telling them to, whether they have their own people or, it'd be to just reach out and learn more about it, learn what you can do. It doesn't, when you first start, you don't have to be putting in $3,000 a month. It can be $100, it can be $50, it can be $500, right? And it's and that was kind of something that you helped me with was, the start, the earlier you start, the less money you're gonna have to put in monthly. And it's so starting early is the thing that I found that's been very helpful for me. Being still only 25, it's kind of a little bit easy knowing that I've already started and already have a base kind of plan. So that would be the biggest thing, was just to figure out a plan that works for you and works for, what your income and whatever it is, whatever it may be. But yeah.
Yeah. Good. So you just bought your first house. How has home ownership been for you?
It's a learning curve. There's random things that pop up and you're like, oh, I didn't even think about this. Yeah, it's good. It's a little bit different. Obviously Canada and US, just certain things, setting up and cable and Wi-Fi, and, you're paying for sewage, there's garbage that you're paying. And in the States, it's, it's random things pile on top of each other. And just as a homeowner, you just, as a first time homeowner, I was just like, I wouldn't even thought of these things before I bought the house. So yeah, it's then once the old lady moved in, it was sort of, I don't have any control of what happens on the inside of the house anymore. It's already quickly turned into, hey, can you build this, or we need to get this. So no,
you get all
great.
The blue jobs on the outside, right?
Yeah, no, it's great. It's got just over an acre. So a lot of yard work, and we got a little dog at the house too. So a lot of space for him to run around, and saves us a few walks when just go in the backyard and let him run around. But that's
just
great.
Enough to put a chipping green in the back.
Yeah. But I would have a little island green or something back there. It'd be great.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah. Ryland, you've been pretty fortunate in regards to injuries and avoiding them. What do you kind of attribute that to? Is it because you play year round, because of your training regimen? What do you think's allowed you to avoid a lot of injuries throughout your career?
Yeah, I think I got my injuries out when I was young. But no, as of late, there's always going to be the nagging little, injuries. I've been fortunate enough to really only in the past, 5 to 7 years, really only had a broken foot. That's taken me out for time. I've few hamstrings here and there and just some minor injuries. But yeah, it's definitely a little bit easier when, you're playing year round and you're training constantly. Whereas if, you're only playing in one league, you may finish the league and then you're like, oh, I'm going to take, a month off, or I'm going to take this amount of time off. And then you ease into training again. For me, I go, we're about to head right into playoffs for NLL right now. And then PLL starts, end of May. So whenever we finish in the next coming months here, or a couple of weeks here for playoffs, how far we go, they overlap. So if we go all the way to the finals, then I'm going to have to miss my first game of the outdoor league. So there's literally no time in between. So there's positive and negatives, some of the nagging injuries I don't have time to heal, but then again, you're, in playing shape for year round. And that definitely has an advantage over some of the guys who only play in one league and have to, like I said, they take some time off and then they have to try and get back into game shape. That's just something I don't really have to do.
So pro sport really requires a ton of mental strength, mental toughness. How do you have strategies that you work on to build your mental toughness? Do you work with a mental coach? What's your strategy on that side of the game?
I don't work with a mental coach, but definitely talk with some of the veterans or, coaches or even GMs. They've all been a part of lacrosse at the highest level. So just learning whatever I can from them is one big thing. I try and pick their brains whenever I can. On our NLL team, we got a lot of veterans, some older guys that have been in the league for a long time. So they've helped me a lot as well. Mentally for me, it's, obviously the biggest thing for me, I think, is I've been trying to hone in on my film. Just you spend a lot of time playing the game. So I've been trying to spend a lot of time watching the game. Just tendencies that maybe I do that I need to try and stop. Or the biggest thing is obviously tendencies that the players I'm facing do. And so come game time, I already know their tendencies in certain things and where they like to go or where they like to be. So that's definitely the mental part of my game that I've tried to really focus on and spend more time on, just to give me any sort of advantage, that I can possibly get. So let's say on the mental side of things, that's probably the biggest step I've been focused on, and just trying to, be the best that I can.
One of the things I definitely admire about you from the first time I met you, whether it's your finances, your game, buying real estate, you're always trying to learn. You're always trying to better yourself. You're always asking questions. And I think that's key to self-improvement for sure. What do you think, Ryland, your strengths are as a player?
I think my strengths, I'm definitely not the fastest player on the field. But I think just general IQ. I'm pretty good at reading what's happening or what's about to happen, or, kind of that next play. I think that's my intuitive in me. It's kind of just there in sport. And, it helps me, with my game. Other than that, I've been pretty fortunate just with size, and that's a big thing in lacrosse. You're not a 5'8" defender, being 6'1", 6'2" is definitely helpful. But for me, it's like I said, I put in a lot of work mentally now, especially. So kind of just being one step ahead of, most guys on the floor is one thing I take a lot of pride in, and I put a lot of work in. So I think that would probably be one of them, would just be lacrosse IQ.
So you've had some big highs. You're the youngest on Team BC. You represented Canada at the World Championships. You've won a PLL championship. What accomplishments are you most proud of, Ryland? Which one stands out the most?
There's probably two. One big one for me would probably be winning the Minto Cup, which is, the championship in all of Canada for junior A lacrosse. So I was able to win that my last year. That was a crazy, just for me, I came back from my junior year of college, straight back. You go home the day after, basically, you're playing box lacrosse. And then, throughout junior A box lacrosse season, I left, went to Israel, played with Team Canada in Israel, flew back home, played the next day in our first round of playoffs. And then we ended up going to the Minto Cup. And I unfortunately broke my foot in the final game, the first game of the finals for that. But it was, growing up, that's, you're not a young hockey player in Canada looking at the NHL for lacrosse. You're a young lacrosse player looking at that junior A, like playing for your town, winning that Minto Cup. So winning that Minto Cup was pretty special to me. And then obviously being a part of Team Canada is anytime you can ever receive, you play for that maple leaf, you get to wear that maple leaf. That is something, not a lot of people get to feel. And, there's a lot of pride making that team. So I'm very happy to hear that I made the team again this year, and we'll be playing the Worlds again come July here. So
nice. Congratulations. It's different playing for your country than it is playing for yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, it's different. And obviously I was pretty young, still in college on that last Team Canada team. So now a little bit older, a little bit more, a little bit more knowledge, but it's truly, it's truly amazing to be able to put on that maple leaf and be a part of that lacrosse organization.
So every athlete's got some big goals that they're always chasing. That's nature of being an athlete. What do you think? What's next for you, Ryland? What's the next big one you want to knock off?
2 championships I haven't won, and that's an NLL and a World Team Canada. So we got a chance for both this year. Who knows? NLL, we got one more game regular season, and then we got playoffs. So obviously winning an NLL Cup is very high on my to-do list. And then gold medal at the World Games would it'd mean a lot as well, just for bringing home a gold medal to our country, and having a sour taste from last Worlds and going home with that silver medal. So those are definitely the top 2 right now. Once you get that kind of winning taste at the professional level, man, it never goes away. So I'm ready to go.
So you've been in the NLL for a few seasons now. What's it going to take to win the championship with the team you have and take that cup?
I think it's probably gonna be the same for most players or most teams you ask. It's just gonna be playing a full 60 minutes of your best lacrosse. Any team can beat any team in this league, so it's gonna be whoever's playing better on that specific night. So we know that, and it's you just got to try and put together a perfect game, and perfect games are never going to happen, but if you can put together 60 minutes of just your best effort as a team, and just playing well that night is going to be a few different keys. So
nice, man. Well, wrap up here. I talk a lot with athletes about life after sport. Anything you're doing kind of now to prepare for that? Have you thought about life after sport? What direction you want your path to go? Or is it just living in the moment and focused on where you're at?
Right now, it's a little bit of both, I think, for me. Obviously being a Canadian in the United States, it's the biggest problem is the visa. So, for me, technically, I can't have another job. I can only play lacrosse on my visa. Right. So that hinders it a bit. Obviously, you can get different visas down the road, and the plan is to obviously get a green card and become a dual citizen eventually. So I think coaching's obviously been something that I've been, I do, coaching here in Rochester. It's working a lot with the youth teams. So maybe getting into like the high school or college level coaching down the road is in the future, might be something that I get into, and whether I turn that into a career or what, it's still trying to figure out if I'm going to be in New York, if I'm going to be in BC, and where I'm going to be.
Right.
But so kind of exploring options at this point, still focusing on obviously my lacrosse and my career right now. But definitely, starting to think more and more as I get a little bit older about what that future plans are going to be.
Because it's different in the States, hey? Like high school coaches, those level coaches actually make pretty decent salary, where in Canada, most of the time it's almost a volunteer position.
Yeah, I mean, you go down to Texas, they're paying high school coaches $200,000. It's crazy. So I don't know what it holds or where or what level, but I've been coaching for a long time, and growing up in BC, I was always coaching my youngest brother and his team. So it's always been something that I've really enjoyed, is throwing or coaching the youth and, trying to grow the game from the ground up. And, it's really cool. The biggest thing for me is when you're coaching and you start coaching a kid at the young age and just seeing practice over practice or months over months or year over year, just the skills and how much better that they're able to get. And, that's what makes coaching so great. So, coaching maybe down the line, but still figuring it out and playing it by ear by now.
I love it, man. Yeah, I love how you have a passion to grow the game. And I know when you're not playing, you're in the office there, helping the team and the league and doing your part to grow lacrosse and coach the next generation coming up. So I appreciate your time this morning, Ryland, and knowing you and having got to know you and seeing your success. And I wish you nothing but success in this season and many seasons to come after, as well, as long as you keep playing.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, we'll see how long the body holds up for, but fingers crossed and knock on wood. So
25 to 30 is very different than 20 to 25.
Yep. So I know the body's already feeling it. There's the low back pain's already coming, but no, it's good and I'm ready. So
love it. Okay, man, we'll jump off live here and then wrap up, and I appreciate your